Hello and welcome back to RC Model Reviews. More FPV stuff today. Sorry if you don't like FPV, but you just have to put up with it for a while because there's a backlog of FPV gear here to review. And today, this. Look at that. Receiver, transmitter. This is the little micro 1.2 gigahertz system that HobbyKing got in a little while ago. I thought, ooh, have a look at that, eh? So I ordered two actually. And this is the transmitter. This is the receiver. I think we might have to have a look using the macro lens to have a closer look at these little boards. Okay, here's the receiver, and the first thing you notice is, look, silly Chinese, they scrape the writing off the chip, thinking, no one will ever guess what this chip is, so no one will copy it. But the reality is, these chips, it's fairly easy to identify one of these chips. There's not many chips that do these roles, so as soon as you find the basic connections, easy enough to hunt through the data sheets and find one that is a match. So, I don't know. And who's going to copy it anyway? Because they're so damn cheap that it's not really worth gearing up, and the market is relatively small for these things, so I don't know. And it's low tech, it's been ground off the really good ones. They blitz them off with a laser, so you can't possibly recover them. Sometimes these, if you put a bit of moisture on there or something, you can recover the number, but to be honest, who really cares? Not me. So it's a single-sided board. There's nothing on the other side. Those little holes are called vias. So it's pretty basic. It's not going to be a very sensitive receiver because this is, of course, the receiver. Yeah, I'm not expecting much from it. And as you can see, it's just got the antennas, just a length of wire that is soldered on. Apparently it's tuned, according to HobbyKing, tuned to 1.2 gigahertz. We'll check that out later. So that's the transmitter, the receiver. Not a lot to see there. Let's have a look at the transmitter. The matching part of the pair. Again, they've scraped off the writing. Why bother? No one wants to copy your stuff. Goodness me. And again, the tuned length of wire. Ooh. And this is a double-sided load, which means there's components on both sides of the board. And obviously, it's got a little crystal there, a little watch crystal. Why? Oh, it'd be for the time base, I suppose, for the video signals. Yeah, it's nothing to write home about. Quality is so-so. It's built to a price, as you'd expect. Now, one thing I have noticed is that they have got these, the wires here. Look, they're using plastic wires. See? No flexibility in that. That's a real pain because the wires, especially when you solder onto the edge of a circuit board like this, you want flexible wires. Otherwise, all the stress ends up on the edge of that board and the wires simply break off. They simply break there because there's no give in the wires. If you have this and you're bending this, look where all the bending takes place. Right down here on the board. That's bad. They've obviously just got a standard cheapy balance lead, cut the white wire off and use those leads. No, that's bodge. You're going to cut these off anyway, but I would really advise resoldering some silicon insulated leads onto here. So otherwise that'll just break off. And if you're flying FPV, you don't want stuff to stop unexpectedly. It's not a good look. And same on this. These are plastic leads as well. There's no silicon wire there. And again, you know where it's going to break. And but as I say, I got two of these. Now I don't know what frequency, they say it's selectable frequencies, haven't seen, there's no switches on there. So how do you change the frequencies? Time for me to have a bit of a closer look and see if I can work it out. Okay, there's no real easy way or obvious way to change the frequencies. They say there are multiple frequencies. How are we going to do it? Well, I'm picking that the odds are that these little connectors along the edge of the board here, see these have got the video and power on, there's another 1, 2, 3, 4 of them here. I'm picking that these will be something to do with setting the frequency. I might try that out later. I'll just have a play around and see if jumpering those makes any difference. The 4 contacts from there actually go over to this chip, which again has had all its writing scraped off it, so we can't tell what it is. But I'm picking that that's used to decode the dip switch, what would be dip switch settings that you'd connect up to there in order to get the right frequencies. Because here's the little clock here. And to just give you a look at the rest of the board while we've got the super macro lens on so you can see what it looks like. As I say, there's not a lot of, it's not uber high quality, it's just average. And there's not really a lot to see unless you're really into this sort of thing. But there you go. Just in case you are, there it is. And likewise, here's a really close look at that transmitter board. There's one side, let's turn it over. Ooh. And look at the other side. I don't like that crystal floating around in midair there. That should actually be, a bit of hot glue would not go astray there, given that this is going to be, come on focus, this is going to be used in your aircraft. So you can see it's only held on by those 2 leads there. So any vibration or any impact is going to put a lot of stress on that crystal. A little bit of hot glue on the end there would go down wonderfully to protect that. And as you can see, there's those wires soldered right on the edge of the board. They will fray and break off, so replace them with silicon wires. If you're not up to soldering that, then cross your fingers and hope. Okay, here we are. It's time for the techie stuff that you only find on RC model reviews when we look at these products and see how well they work and whether they match up to the manufacturer's specifications. And what I've done here is, let's just go up a bit so you can see, I've got the little board over here. It's a bit hard to see on this angle, but I've got the little board and I put a coaxial cable on it here with an SMA connector on the end. So I'm not just using the wire whip, I'm taking all the power out via a cable. Then it goes through this 20 decibel attenuator. What that means is a 20 dB attenuator only allows 1/100th of the power of the transmitter to go through to our spectrum analyzer because we don't want to fry it. It's expensive and they don't tolerate large amounts of power being pushed into the various holes on them. So I've reduced the power by a level of 100 and now we've got some measurements coming up here. Currently it says that the frequency is 1.340 gigahertz, which is exactly what it should be. And that's a frequency used by navigational beacons in many countries. So I guess if you don't get any interference, you're probably right. If you find you've got lines and patterning, then maybe not the best frequency to use because there may be a navigational beacon operating in your vicinity and your tiny little transmitter, just in theory, could upset that. I don't know. It is a pretty low power transmitter, as we will see, because let's look at the power levels. The HobbyKing claim it's 100 milliwatts. But then they turn around and claim that it has a power level of 17 dBm, which if you do the mathematics is only 50 milliwatts. So what is it, 100 or 50? Well, let's have a look down here. This says that we have just round it up, -7 dBm. Now remember, we have to add 20 to that number because we've got an attenuator that is giving us just 1/100th the signal. So we've taken 20 decibel out before we go in, so we add 20 decibel to this figure to get the actual number. And that is 13 dBm. And what's 13 dBm? Well, that is, if I do my sums quickly, well, why not? Just push this button, it'll tell us. Here we go. Now it says we have 100, I can't read that, 190.5 microwatts. So let's say 190 microwatts. Now, as I said, only 1/100th of the power is getting through, so we have to multiply this number by 100, and that would give us 19 milliwatts. So it's nearly 20 milliwatts. That's a pretty long way from 100 milliwatts, and it's even a long way from 50 milliwatts. So yeah, it is doesn't put out the power level that is advertised, I'm afraid. It's, it's typical for a lot of these products that they overclaim the specs. It's just not as powerful as they say. Of course, one thing that could be affecting this is over here, I'm running the bench supply at 3.3 volts because it claims this will run from 3 volts to 5 volts or something. And it's drawing about 70 to 80 milliamps at the moment. So let's see what happens if I wind up the voltage. So let's wind the voltage up, let's not go too far. We'll wind it up to 4.5 volts, which is probably a safe maximum given that they claim 5. You notice the current's gone up to 120 milliamps, so we're putting a lot more power into this little transmitter. Let's see if it has changed any of these numbers. And let's measure again. There we go. What's happened now? Well, it has gone up a bit actually. It's gone up to 131 microwatts. So now we're doing, actually it's gone down, hasn't it? It has gone down in fact, because it's now doing 131 microwatts, which is 13 milliwatts. So the power has actually decreased. And we go here, it has gone down to -8.6 dBm. So we put more power in, but we're getting less power out. And trust me, it'll be getting an awful lot hotter because where you put more power in, you get less power out. The power that is disappearing as heat. So yeah, if you're going to run it at any voltage, run it at a lower voltage because you're going to get more power out of the damn thing. It's just crazy. I'll go down to 3.3 volts and we'll see what happens. Back down to 70 to 75 milliamps. Let's measure it again and see what it says this time. Let's go and rerun it. There we go, the power went up a bit. It's gone to 7.6 decibels again. Let's go to power. It's now doing 17 milliwatts. So more voltage means less power. There you go. If you're going to run these things, obviously you want to run them through a UBEC to bring the voltage down, or run it from a single cell LiPo. But remember that single cell LiPos are about 4.2 volts fully charged, and as the voltage goes down, the power's going to go up. But if you're running it from a 2-cell or a 3-cell or a 4-cell pack, which is unlikely with a transmitter this small, you have to put a BEC in. If you're going to put a BEC in, use a 3.3 volt one, because that'll give you more power. There you go. Those are the technical facts. Of course, all this fancy little tiny transmitter stuff's not much good if you don't have a small camera. And this isn't supposed to be a review of this camera, but I picked this one up on eBay. And it was about, I don't know, 15 bucks including shipping or something. And here it is. Look at this, lovely. It's the same one as I've got in my little Walkera Ladybird, I think. It's very similar, just a tiny little camera like that. And I'll give you a close-up on that. But yeah, and look at this. Who on earth, why would you want all these big bulky leads if you had this tiny little camera? Makes no sense at all. So, yep, first thing to do is get rid of all that. I presume there's some plugs. Yep, there you go. So we don't need, this can go in the bin. There you go, done. So now we're just going to wire this up to the little micro transmitter board, and I'm going to do a bit of walking, see what the video looks like. Do a bit of a range test perhaps. And for those who want to wire up their own little camera inboard, it's simplicity itself. It's just join the colors, black to black, red to red, yellow to yellow, and then of course the black and red ones also go off to your battery or your BEC. I'm probably just going to use the single cell LiPo. What's this one? It's a 350 milliamp per hour. Drive it with that. It's going to give me about the right voltage. Won't have to worry about regulators or anything, because I'm going to go off, carry this thing off into the wild blue yonder and see how far away I can go before the signal disappears. Of course, I'm going to have to wire up this receiver connector here as well, so that I can put an AV lead on it. I'm going to, I don't know if you can get this into shot, I'm going to record things with the little digital DVR. I should do a review of this too. I haven't reviewed this yet, but this is a little digital DVR with multiple inputs and has an SD card, standard definition video. I'll record the results of the camera test on this, and in a future video, if anyone's interested, I'll review this as well so you can see how it works. Well, I was very lucky. A friend with wings came and took the AXN for a bit of a blast with this little FPV setup on it. It was a very, that's the receiver. It's also small, it's so easy to get lost. Oh, it's still on the plane actually, still on the AXN. I just taped it onto the AXN, flew it. The little camera, to be honest, you know, that camera, that $15 camera, whatever it is, budget. Don't bother, it's really bad. It claims, I can't believe they expect people to believe this stuff. Listen to this. Looking at the specs here, apparently this is a 200 megapixel camera. Believe it or not, I'm not kidding. Hopefully it'll focus. You can see, no, probably not going to focus, man. It says 200 megapixels. It's just joking. And the reality is that camera is like so bad. It's pastel-y, it's all horrible. There's very little, you know, as far as the camera goes, throw it away. Not good. I'll test some other micro cameras. I'll also put the backpack up again with a proper 700 TV line camera so you can see the quality, but I'll give you an indication of the video link itself, but I'll show you the footage that I got. You can see that, just ignore the picture quality, just look for the breakup, look for the noise on the picture, and you'll see that it's not too bad within 100 or 200 meters, but anything beyond that, it's starting to break up quite bad, but that's just with the little wire whips. There's no real antennas, they're just a barely tuned, you know, quarter wave whip. So a little bit of an improvement in the antenna department would probably make a world of difference if you build a patch or even some circularly polarized antennas, but you can't put those on a micro FPV if it's 1.2 gigahertz because they'll be bigger than the damn plane. But what I'm going to do is I've got some foam board out there and I've got some little motors and things. I might just knock up a tiny little FPV thing. I'll use the camera off my Ladybird because that's actually a much better camera. It cost a lot more. It's about 50 bucks, the camera from the Ladybird. The camera from eBay is just a disaster. Never mind, now we know. Don't buy $15 micro cameras from eBay. They're rubbish. Well, there you go. So what do I think about the little HobbyKing board? Well, it's down on power. It's not what they claimed it would be in terms of the power. It's good for about 200 yards, maybe a bit more. I won't know the real quality of the video it produces until I put a decent camera on it. That's the best. That's going to be the best thing. And then I'll do a follow-up on this once I've had a bit more time to play with it. But yeah, I just brought you the basic facts to start with. Now you know you're not really getting 100 milliwatts or even 50 milliwatts. It's on a band by default, which is not legal. We can of course change that. I'm going to do another video where I show you how to change the frequencies. I see it actually now after I've looked, it's on the HobbyKing website as well. Someone else has figured out. And yes, it was those little connectors along the side. You can put a dip switch on there, which would be bigger than the receiver itself, and just flick the channels if you wanted to. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. If you've got questions on the little micro FPV transmitter receiver or comments, put them in the bottom of this video. If you like it and you think others might find it useful, give it a thumbs up and stay tuned because it's the southern summer and there's more FPV and lots of other stuff coming up on RC Model Reviews. Bye for now.